Ever get that feeling, where some news stories, even the really tragic ones, they just sort of fade away, like no real sense of closure. You know what I mean?
Right, like a loose end you can't quite tie off.
Exactly. And today, we're going to untangle one of those. We're diving deep into a UK legal case, RV Rashid Ali, a conviction for causing death by dangerous driving.
Heavy stuff. So what's the twist?
The twist is we've got our hands on something unusual. The judge's sentencing remarks. It's not every day we get this kind of fly-on-the-wall view of the justice system.
Behind the scenes, so to speak.
I know what you're thinking. Sentencing remarks sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry, right?
Deceptively boring, I'd say. These aren't just some legal box to tick. They're the judge's own words explaining the why behind the sentence.
Okay, I like that. It's like getting a peek behind the curtain, seeing how they actually reach these decisions that impact people's lives forever.
Exactly. And in this case, that impact is huge.
Absolutely. But before we get into the thick of it, let's rewind to the start. Rashid Ali was sentenced in absentia, meaning, get this, he wasn't even in court. On September 13th, 2024, when this all went down, he was long gone, all the way in Pakistan, basically having skipped town before facing the music for something that happened way back on January 13th, 2021.
So like pre-pandemic even. Makes the whole thing even weirder, right? This case dragged on for years. You wonder if time stood still for him while this was hanging over his head. I mean, over 2 years just to file charges.
Blows my mind. But okay, let's rewind to that January night in London, Beaufort Street. Picture it. Getting dark, roads are probably slick, and Rashid Ali is at the wheel of his Range Rover Sport heading south. Now, the speed limit there, crucial detail, 20 miles per hour.
Which matters because the judge specifically points out Ali was going between 39 and 42. Now, I know people speed, it happens, but in the eyes of the law, this is different. This is disregard, and in this case, it turns fatal.
Tragically so. So Ali is approaching a crossroads at Chelsea Embankment. Lights go amber. But instead of slowing down, he speeds up, blows through the light, and at that exact moment, 29-year-old Jack Ryan is crossing the street. Just living his life, Heading home, maybe meeting up with someone, we'll never know. What we do know, thanks to his sister Tiara, heartbreaking, she described him as funny, kind-spirited, a devoted friend, partner, a diehard Aston Villa fan. Can you imagine?
Just trying to picture the kind of guy who loves Aston Villa. It's always more vivid when you have those details.
Right. His family said he lit up a room, brought joy to everyone, and then gone just like that because of a choice made behind the wheel.
And this is where these sentencing remarks get real. The judge makes it crystal clear. No legal decision, no amount of time can fix that, right? The hole left in these people's lives, Jack's partner having to raise their kid alone now, it ripples outward, friends, family, everyone who knew him.
It's that reminder that these cases, yeah, there's legal stuff, guidelines, but at the heart of it, it's about real people, lives shattered. So we've got Jack's story, but what about the guy driving the car? Who was Rashid Ali?
Okay, so sentencing remarks tell us. 26 years old, Pakistani national, here on a student visa when this happened. And, kind of interesting, the judge includes his birth date, July 26, 1994, which seems random, but maybe it's about being extra sure, ID issues, worries he might try to disappear again.
Adding layers to this whole thing. Right. Driving on an international license flees the country. It's almost like he's trying to slip through the cracks. But the law has a long reach. Even from across the globe, it finds a way. And in this case, the judge had a lot to untangle.
Oh, for sure. Don't forget, sentencing was 2024, incident was 2021.
Yeah.
The law actually changed in that time. Max sentence for causing death by dangerous driving went from 14 years to life.
Whoa, life. That's intense, but that didn't apply to Ollie because of the timing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sentenced under the old rules, which is a whole other kettle of fish. See, they had these levels of culpability. Basically, how much blame goes on the driver.
Okay, break that down for me. How do these levels work?
Think of it like a scale, right?
Yeah.
Level A, the worst of the worst, intentionally causing harm. Level C, more like bad driving, but not necessarily dangerous. And then level B, right in the middle, that's where Ollie lands.
Not the absolute worst, but still way beyond a simple mistake.
Right. So level B, it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? Sentences can be all over the place depending on the specifics. And with Ali, the prosecution, they wanted him high up on that level B.
Because of the speed mostly, or are there other things too?
Speed's a big one, for sure. But they also pointed to him running the light, the time of day, even having a passenger in the car. All these things, they're what they call aggravating factors, basically stuff that makes the crime more serious.
Okay, but it sounds like the judge wasn't totally on board with that. They went with the lower end of level B, right? So what tipped the scales the other way?
That's where the mitigating factors come in, see? Things that might make the sentence a bit lighter, like Ali didn't have any priors, no history, this kind of thing. Plus, he cooperated at the scene, wasn't drunk or high, things like that. It's always this balance, right? Weighing the bad against anything that might make it a little less bad, if that makes sense.
And this might seem like a small detail, but remember how we talked about the speed limit changing right there? 20 to 30 just before the intersection. That probably played a role too, right? Like maybe the road design itself was a bit confusing.
Oh, absolutely. Even the road itself can become part of the story. It makes you think, about city planning, how decisions made way before anything like this even happens can have these ripple effects, tragic ones in this case.
And speaking of choices, the elephant in the room, right? Ali taking off to Pakistan. What's the takeaway there? Is it guilt? Trying to dodge the consequences, or is there something else we're missing?
The judge really digs into that in the remarks.
Yeah.
It's tricky. See, Ali said he was sorry at the scene and even wrote a letter later, but then he does a runner. It's hard to separate genuine remorse from just wanting to save your own skin.
Yeah, and the judge has to figure all that out while still, like, doing their job, delivering a sentence.
Yep. So what do you get? 5 years prison, but eligible for release halfway through, plus a 5.5-year driving ban once he's out. Oh, and get this is interesting. The judge also ordered him to pay £4,000. Costs, they call it. But it's not like compensation to the victim's family or anything. It's the admin fees, the legal costs of the whole shebang.
Wait, really? That seems, I don't know, almost pointless. I mean, he's in Pakistan.
It's unusual for sure.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a statement. Justice might be delayed. It might even be impossible to fully carry out, but it still has a price tag. Not just emotional, but actual money.
Yeah.
And who knows if they'll ever see a penny of that from overseas. But it sets a precedent. You run, you still got to pay up.
So, sentence is given, but then what? It's like a weird limbo, right? He's gone, halfway across the world. Is the UK system just waiting around?
Kind of. It all hinges on extradition, right? International agreements, which is a whole other can of worms. Zero guarantees he ever steps foot in a UK prison.
So many unanswered questions, it's frustrating. Will he ever face any consequences for skipping bail? Serve his full sentence? And, like, the biggest one, what will bring any kind of closure to Jack Ryan's loved ones? I mean, they've been through the ringer, fighting for justice while grieving. It's remarkable. And this whole thing, as awful as it is for everyone directly involved, it also forces us to look at the bigger picture, right? Remember we talked about that intersection being considered dangerous even before this? And then what happens? They finally install those pedestrian lights, but only after.
Classic case of too little, too late. Just makes you wonder, how many times does something tragic have to happen before things change?
It's a sobering thought, but that's what we're here for, right? To unpack this stuff, look at it from every angle, and hopefully learn something from it all. It really makes you think, doesn't it? This whole idea that what we do has these ripple effects, things we don't even consider half the time.
Totally. It's like, what's that saying? No man is an island. We're all connected, for better or worse. And the choices we make could be anything, but especially behind the wheel. Those can have huge consequences. Sobering, really.
Yeah, it really is. And for everyone listening, like, this probably hits home, right? Think about it. Have you ever taken a risk while driving, even a small one?
Oh, for sure. That little voice that says, it's fine, even when you know deep down.
Exactly. It's easy to think, won't happen to me. But this case, it throws that right back in our faces. It can happen to anyone.
And it's not about fear-mongering. It's about owning that responsibility,
Yeah.
We all got to play a part in making roads safer. Starts with admitting we're not perfect. All of us makes mistakes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Because look, at the end of the day, this deep dive into RV Rashid Ali, it wasn't about picking apart one legal case, right? Or just understanding these sentencing remarks. It was about facing a tragedy head on.
Taking it all in, the whole mess of it, and hopefully coming out the other side with a little more wisdom, I guess. About ourselves, about the world.
And about the human cost of it all, right? Because behind every case, there's people whose lives are changed forever.
Exactly. And if this gets people talking, makes them think twice, maybe that's a start. Pushing for a better, fairer world, one conversation at a time.
Well said. And on that note, as we wrap up, here's something to chew on. Imagine you're the judge in this case. Got all this weight on your shoulders, the facts, the emotions, the guy's not even there. What sentence would you give? What does that tell you about your own sense of justice? Tough questions, I know, but important ones. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? Engaging with the tough stuff. That's how we learn, how we grow, how we become more understanding and less likely to repeat these mistakes. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been heavy but necessary, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe out there.